10 दिन बाद ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਉਹਦੀ ਇਲਾਜ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੀ ਜੇ ਮੁੰਡਾ ਮਾਰੇਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮਾਰ ਦਿਓ
ਬੜੇ ਔਖੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੌਣ ਹੀ ਆਦਮੀ ਮਰ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਪੁੱਤ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ
16 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੀਰ ਝੋਨੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਣੀ ਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਬਲਦੇਵ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਮਾਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ
ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ ਡੈਥ सर्टिफिकेट ਤਾਂ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਅੱਗੇ
उसका कोर्ट बड़ा है एक ना एक दिन इंसाफ मिलेगा जरूर मिलेगा
Okay, we got an opportunity to meet the director of the film, Jaswant Kaur. Jaswant, so wonderful to Waiga Kasa, Waiga Fateh. The first question I wanted to ask you was, this is an incredibly moving movie in the sense that emotions and all the rest of it. Why did you decide to pursue this particular subject? Why was it very important for you to kind of communicate all the different aspects of it?
The film itself is a showcase, if you like, or a snapshot into the work that we've been doing in Punjab for the last 10 years, the Punjab Documentation Advocacy Project. And what we felt was that we had such a vast experience in our work in Punjab, and we wanted to share that with a larger audience, and so that they can begin to understand what motivated us. Actually, you won't really know until you watch the film and you experience what we experienced, then you can get an idea of why the film is so important.
Do you feel it's important because it's documenting an historical aspect? Do you think it inspires people to do something more in terms of changing that?
Yes, I mean, the film is about ongoing cases. So while there is a historical element, I think that's what we wanted to change, this idea that it is an historical event when the families are there and the family's suffering continues and their need for justice continues. So it is, while the original victim, maybe sort of 20, 25 years ago, the current victims are the families, and that's what we wanted to highlight.
Absolutely. You think that really there's a ripple effect that's created, isn't there?
100%. I mean, and I don't think we've even begun to understand the ripple effect. This is a glimpse into that, but no serious studies and no serious work has been done in Punjab on the long-term psychological effects of disappearances, the mental and physical toll of torture, and it covers so many things that we wanted just to give a glimpse into that with the film.
We appreciate that, and we really appreciate your dedication to bringing this to the people and the world, really. Wanted to also say Namaskar to Satnam Singh. Satnam, you're doing a lot of human rights activities in terms of looking after those individuals, trying to expose what we can do to help. Tell us about your work over in India. You're a local lad that's moved over to India the last few years.
So the work started in 2007. I was a practicing barrister here. I got a scholarship to just look at generic human rights work in India, and it was with good fortune that I was connected with a lawyer in Delhi who was working on the Jaswant Singh, the last ends of that case. We'd already been interested in human rights, but it gave us a unique opportunity to really understand what happened to the disappeared people in Punjab and the legal processes. So we were really kind of moved by that experience, and the motivation was that if we could come back and do some documentation work, we would really like to do that. The documentation work grew gradually to an investigation and fact-finding thing, and we've reached a stage now that we gathered a significant amount of data. There were 8,257 cases that we could identify, and the next stage of that is to pursue this as a legal case before the Supreme Court. You'll see in the film, they're sort of harrowing stories, but there's a message of hope in the sense that these victims are still alive, the evidence is still there, and 25 years, 30 years isn't actually a very long time when these horrific things happen. So that's really where we are at the moment.
It's great that you're championing the cause, and as we were saying in an earlier interview with the director, there are a ripple effect in one sense, isn't there? It affects their lives, and also hope is the most important thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, and one thing that a lot of people said to us is, look, people have moved on, or the people that sort of had those views were not the ones that had actually gone and spoken to the victims, and a lot of them just needed to sort of relay their story. But if you ask them, what is it that you want as a victim? They want justice, they want accountability, they want the truth. So the only difference is, these things have a sort of gradual process, and our view is that if they're still asking those questions and they're still demanding, that it's sort of duty bound on all of us to try and pursue that in the best way that we can within the legal system that is there, regardless of its faults or defects and all the rest of it. So their spirit's still there, and it's just another small effort to try and continue that further.
It's a champion effort, well done. So we're going to move on to interviewing some people before they go in to see the screening. We thank the directors and the human rights supporters for their time today. I'm with Jatinder Singh. Jatinder Singh, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਫਤਿਹ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੇ ਮੂਵੀ ਦਾ ਦੇਖਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇਹ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟਰੀ, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੀ ਮੋਟੀਵੇਸ਼ਨ, ਕਿਉਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਇਹ ਮੂਵੀ, ਕਿੱਥੇ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਮੂਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਇੱਕ
ਇਹਦੇ ਪੋਸਟਰ ਲੱਗੇ ਸੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੂਵੀ ਕਾਹਤੇ ਬਣੀ ਆ, ਐਂਡ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਡਿਸਅਪੀਅਰਡ ਨਾਂ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਇਹਦਾ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਵਾਂ।
ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੋਈ ਸੋਚ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਮੂਵੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਤੇ ਬਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ?
ਥੋੜੀ ਬਹੁਤੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਪਰ I've come here to get more information on this.
Do you have any personal thoughts on any other connections? Have you heard about disappearances in Punjab before?
Yes, I have heard about disappearances before, and obviously everyone knows about 1984 and Blue Star operation, but this goes beyond that, from what I gather.
Okay, well, I hope to see you afterwards, and we'll see what you think in terms of if it, has a reaction.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ji.
Why can't?
So with me today to help present is Hamraj. So we'll be co-presenting today. Hamraj, what's your aspirations today? I mean, we're just about to go into the screening.
I mean, my aspirations, we travelled all the way down from Birmingham, and an event like this, a premiere like this, there's no way we cannot cover it. I mean, it's a huge documentary.
Okay, I'm with Punjab Singh, and Punjab Singh has just literally arrived. You've come down to the movie today. You bought a ticket. What was the reason for your interest in this film?
So it was to basically come and see the documentary today and see what happened in the aftermath of 1984 and the enforced killings that took place, as well as the encounter killings, and to hear family accounts of what happened, and also some of the evidence that the team have gathered around this documentary. It's not something that's been put together before, so it'd be really interesting to find out exactly what happened, and also to kind of highlight that to the youth of today. So I think it's really important.
It's an issue, isn't it, looking at whether or not we actually document and remember and ensure that our youth do realise, those that weren't born at the time, that was a very grim situation.
Absolutely, I think it's really important to understand the history of what happened in our religion, and also to get justice for what happened. I think that's very important going forward, and hopefully this documentary highlights some of the key things that happened back in those days, and we can do something about that going forward.
Absolutely, thanks so much in time.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today and watching the documentary and supporting us by watching the documentary. This starts our UK tour. The reason we started in Slough is because by Jaswant Singh Ji Khalra, they spent some time here as well when they was in the UK. So we want to honour them in that way. Also, I'd just like to say that by Jaswant Singh Ji Khalra's brother is amongst us today, by Amrajit Singh, and he's within the audience as well. And we will commence with the questions and answer session, and I'd like to kind of introduce our panellists, so if you'd like to come up. So to my left of me we have Bibi Jaswant Kaur, who is a filmmaker and a human rights advocate, and also we have Barrister Satnam Singh as well with us. I'm going to open it out to the audience for your questions. Please, just a humble request from myself, can we have no speeches, and can you please make your questions direct? Thank you.
What impact are you looking for this project? It's a very important project. What Satnam Singh, I've known how many years you put into this project,
with Jaswant, Kaur and the good Sevadars, and how hard it is to work in Punjab and what you've been doing, especially in village after village. What impact, what sort of response are you seeking from the Sangat globally for this great project that you're doing, reminding us of our history? What do you seek?
To your question, we need to stand with these people of Punjab. When we came to Punjab 10 years ago and we asked everything that you have read and seen growing up in England, we'd read and seen as well. We went to Punjab and a lot of people said the people of Punjab have moved on. Tusi pindan jaunge and nobody will want to talk to you, and these are wounds that they've forgotten about. It's time to move on. Punjab's, in a different place than it was. What you've seen is 2% of people's pain and suffering that they've carried with them for the 2.5 decades. What we're looking from the Sangat in Punjab, in Delhi, in India, in the UK, in Canada, wherever you are across the world, is to stand with these people. We don't have all the answers to these problems, this mass killing that happened in Punjab, but we're taking this issue back to the Supreme Court. Now, you may find it ironic that a documentary that spent 1 hour and 10 minutes telling you how bad the legal system is in India and then it doesn't deliver for justice, why are you going back? And there's a simple answer to that, is because it is completely unacceptable. We have said all of the things that these non-Sikh eminent panelists have been saying for the last 25 years. And when we went into the villages and we started doing this documentation, we met with some incredibly brave people, and you've seen the struggles that are fought every day by different human rights activists, lawyers, and there are some good, decent people that understand what happened to the people of Punjab. And our task was to show them the evidence, to have this independent people's tribunal, because we wanted them to say the things that we've said until we were hoarse and crying, but nobody wanted to listen. The Supreme Court of India has to look at this. There hasn't been a case in Indian legal history where 8,257 people are saying, victim families are saying, that where is our loved one? Where have they disappeared? There was one particular judgment very recently in the Punjab and Haryana High Court where a victim family had filed a case and the police were refusing to file the case at the local police station. And the judge said in that judgment, when you lose a bike, if a bike, ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਸਾਈਕਲ ਚੋਰੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਥਾਣੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ FIR ਦਰਜ ਕਰਾਉਣੇ ਆ। ਇਹ ਸਾਈਕਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ, ਇਹ ਬੰਦਾ ਆ। And I don't think I need to go into what happened with the Kalada case and everything else, but we're just presenting one simple question to the Supreme Court amongst many other complex others. First of all, what happened to these people? And secondly, in a large number of cases, in hundreds of cases, we've gathered the evidence to say this person was picked up here, detained here, tortured here, killed in fake encounter here, and then his body was cremated there. Now, and if our evidence, if our findings are wrong, if our evidence is weak, if the evidence is exaggerated, take 2 minutes to dismiss our case. But if there's an ounce of truth to what is being said for these victim families, then you have a constitutional duty under your own constitution to admit this case and to give these people answers, and it's answers what they're looking for.
We understand what's happening. This is the Indian government we're talking about, right? I mean, the government's not ever going to admit that they were in the wrong and go against themselves. So you might actually make awareness or whatever. The parties, the committees, the government will change, but the people living there will still always be the same. Their thinking, their mentality will always be the same. The Sikhs will always still remain the minority, right? So the first question being is this going to ever stop? Will they ever go against themselves? Second question is, how can we help to put a stop to this? How can we help you guys to make things change?
Okay, thank you. That's two.
Jaswant will answer your second question. Look, we've been looking at this growing up now for the last 25 years. And when we went to Punjab, you look at this and you grapple with it and you think, this is terrible. I can look at it as a Sikh, or I can look at it as a lawyer, as a human rights activist, and you think, what is the answer to this? And I came to a conclusion a few years ago. And when you look at the history of human rights violations, you look at history of a genocide, it takes many, 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 many years. But the people that commit genocide and crimes against humanity and mass human rights violations, the only weapon that you have against them is this weapon. Because what they want to see is the moment you sit down and you say it's a part of history, that battle has been won for them. The moment you keep getting up and you keep persistently putting this before them, dismiss our case once, restrict the case twice, add a sanction. This work didn't start with us. This work started by Jaswant Singh, and I just want to give one example of how great that man was. We talk about shahadat and what a great thing shahadat is. Yeah? One of the greatest types of shahadat is when you fight without weapons. When you just fight, your only weapon is the truth. By Jaswant Singh, what did he do? He took information, massive information, an information that shook the very foundations of the state, to say, I can prove that you've killed people in their thousands. And what did he do with that information? He took that information to the court. I don't know if many people realize this. When Jaswant Singh was alive, he put his case before the Punjab and Haryana High Court and it was dismissed. They said his evidence was vague. Why did his case go to the Supreme Court? Because he was abducted, and Bibi Paramjit Kaur Khalada filed a writ to the Supreme Court to say her husband had been abducted. It was only after that, when the issue went across the world, that this issue came out. How do you look at struggles for justice, civil rights, human rights? I can give you a very short example. Not too long ago in the past of this country, black people were bought and sold as slaves. We've got a rich history, and we say that in 1699 we had a guru that was uplifting people that were lower caste and giving them barabarta. In 1699, people were being sold off in crates as slaves. And it took the African American community, the British black community, and many others decades to get to a situation to free themselves from enslavement. And then as recently as the 1960s, you had Martin Luther King arguing for blacks to have the rights to sit on the same buses and go to the same schools. They may have got rid of the immediate discrimination, but why do we in 2019 still have a phenomenon called Black Lives Matter, where young black men are still shot dead on suspicion of whatever a trigger-happy police officer says? Now, has that movement finished? It's taken a different shape. It's understood what's happened, but the one thing that community hasn't done, it hasn't stood still. This isn't about getting justice in the sense that we understand justice in this country. It's a struggle for these people to say that this is what they want. We asked them a question. Mata tusi ki chahne hain? Bapu ji tusi ki chahne hain? Bhai sahab, thwada bhra chukya gaya, tusi ki chahne hain? Sanu insaf chahiye. We didn't ask you the question, we asked them the question. Assi adalat ch jana. And we were lucky during the making of this documentary that the sanction issue that Colin was talking about, we got that stay vacated, and 18 cases where Punjab police officers were charge-sheeted, those trials started in the last 8 months. And the challenge was to try and prevent Punjab police officers putting pressure on victims, trying to pay off their extended relatives. And for me, the pinnacle of my life career won't be how far I get as a lawyer or anything like that, is to watch a mata stand in the witness box, look her accusers in the eyes, and then narrate a story. And these stories are so terrible. I'm just going to share this one thing because I think this needs to be told. There was a Babaji from a particular dera who was picked up and disappeared. His brother was disappeared. His sons were disappeared. 6 members of a particular family. And I was looking at the woman. They're called a reader. She records the evidence. So Mata was saying, "Unhone chukya, kita, o kita." And towards the end of the evidence, so the prosecutor was asking her the question, "Unhone thoda koi hor bhi nuksan kita, Mata ji?" She said, "Sada dera chalda utthe Tarantan ch." She said, 50 ਬੋਰੀਆਂ ਕਣਕ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲੰਗਰ 'ਚ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਲਿਆ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਖਾਲੀ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੰਗਰ ਦੀ ਅਨਾਜ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਗਏ. The woman who was writing this put her pen down and everybody in the room was just shocked, not at the killing, not at the torture and everything else that she was saying, and somebody who was standing behind me just whispered and said, "ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਦਿਖਾਣੇ ਆ?" Now, one case against thousands, it may not count for anything, but even one case where somebody who's been carrying a borge with them for 25 years, at least getting them to the door of the court, it may not be the kind of victory or the kind of thing that everyone is expecting, but it's something.
Just to add to what Satnam was saying, it's not our choice. You know, we're not the ones who are directly affected by these killings, so it's not for us to say what that process will be. These families are saying, 8,257 of them, that we want answers and we want justice. So it's our duty to go to a forum that can begin to give some of those answers, and that's the court. And also, you will see that while the film is called Punjab Disappeared, we've also covered other states in India who have ongoing human rights violations. And if we don't ask these questions, if we don't put this information in front of the court, the effect of that is on all the people today. The people that remain in their struggles in India, whether it's Manipur, whether it's Chhattisgarh, whether it's Kashmir, you would have heard Soni Suri, the lady who told you about what she had suffered. That woman, it was a teacher in an area called Chhattisgarh, which is 60% tribal, and she would educate, as she said, she would educate the children that would come to her school about Adivasi rights. What are your rights as tribal people in India? And you saw what happened, and you heard what happened to her. Now, towards the end of what she said, had Punjab fought harder, possibly this would not have happened in Chhattisgarh. Dar hunda to the police officials, to the powers that be, that this happened in Punjab. And these people, even 25 years later, are still asking those questions. These questions and these answers, they're not going away. We're sitting here today. This is the work that the Punjab Documentation Advocacy Project has done. Will it stop here? No. When we're 20 years down the line, there will be some Naujawan who will come up and carry on asking those questions if they're not answered. And it says more about you as a people, it says more about you as human beings, about the questions you ask, not the answers necessarily that you get.
Earlier on, what is it that we can do individually to help you in your cause? Having watched this film, we're all going to go away from here feeling emotional, but given time, human nature, it tends to fade away. What can we do actively, daily, individually, to not only support you, but also to further the awareness amongst our younger generation, it's what you've done for me, it just moved me. But is the same effort going to happen? Is someone going to have to keep on going out there to keep on making these films? Or can we, and what can we do here to keep our youngsters made aware of this, and also to help you? For example, the governments that we live under, they're all in bed with each other for financial reasons. They're never going to support us. But however, we can hold them accountable.
Okay, Bonnie, thank you very much for your question. So,
question anyway. If there's any lawyers, feel free to come forward. If there are people that are interested in these issues, come forward. If you've got skills, we're trying to build this up as a campaign. So if anyone feels that they have those certain skills, but the one thing I never say to people is, any human rights activist, because as Sikhs, you're all human rights activists. Understand that one thing. Your job wasn't just to wake up in the morning, do your part, go to the Gurdwara, look after your families, and then go back home again. There was spiritualism in India before Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and there was spiritualism remain. The dynamic of Sikhi is that we will stand up. And what you saw in this documentary was the converging of different peoples across India saying, we want to stand united as one. The stronger that bond is, where all people are coming together to say that we demand justice, that's all we're asking for. We want to end the killings. So the media, I don't know how I can really answer that question. Sometimes people have come up to me and said, look, we have a small team in Punjab. And people have said, well, why don't you expand your team? And you know the reason why? There are lawyers in India. I can pay a lawyer a certain amount of money, but I know when that case goes to court, somebody has very deep pockets. Can I then train that lawyer and trust that lawyer to say that he wouldn't be compromised or corrupted? That's our challenge. Our team is made up of victims. There was a young boy that we documented in 2007 called Gurmeet Singh, and his grandfather narrated a really powerful story about how his wife had passed away. He'd brought up Gurmeet's father because his wife had died. Then his son got killed by the police, and then how he grew up, Gurmeet Singh. Gurmeet Singh works for the Punjab Documentation Advocacy Project because he's somebody who understands and suffers. There's a small number of reliable people in India, and in an ideal world I can say to you, look, there's thousands of cases in Punjab, we need a big campaign, we need lots of lawyers. I can't guarantee that. We can only do what we can do, because you're in a system that is a complex system. It's a system that is very, very, very difficult to negotiate. If people are prepared to give up their time and they want to work, then I would say come forward. But it's not just about whether you're going to come forward and do work as lawyers or anything like that. When this issue comes to the Supreme Court, we want everybody in the world to understand, and we want there to be enough pressure put on the Supreme Court that they have to do something about this. So we're trying, this is the first phase. It's not about bringing a documentary and then that's it. It's the first part of a campaign. And we've got a website, we'll be updating people of what they can do. But it's your moral support, it's your voice, and any other skill set that you have that we're looking for.
Just off the back of that note, so there is an information desk outside if anyone wants to talk to the team and just let them know what resource, skills or anything that you've got. You can write your name down there and have a quick discussion with them at the information desk at the end. We'll take another question.
Two questions. Have you heard of Insaf? Have you worked with them? My second question is this. You advocated for using the pen as an administrator of justice. In that case, what do you think about the Hathiarband Sangharsh that Santaji took on? And obviously we're commemorating 35 years since Battle of Amritsar. I would love to know your views on that.
जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह। भाई साहब देखो बेनती है भई बड़े सज्जे ढंग नाल तुसीं सारी गल मेरा ख्याल है सवाल करन नालों सानूं ये चाहिदा भी जिस ढंग नाल ये लड़ाई तुसीं लड़ रहे हैं कर्म दी लड़ाई और तुसीं आप जिहड़ी गल स्पष्ट कीती है ये सिर्फ ये आ कि असीं उन्हां अगे झुकना नहीं जो कुछ वो चाहुंदे आ इत्थे भी लड़ाई यही है भी तुसीं इस गल नूं भुल जाओ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਦੀ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਭੁੱਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਭੁੱਲਣੀ ਆ। ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਣਾ। ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਾਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਵੇ, ਪਰ ਦ੍ਰਿੜਤਾ ਨਾਲ ਲੜਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਸਾਡਾ ਸਿਰ ਝੁਕਦਾ 100% ਮੋਰਲੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾਲ ਆ। ਅੱਜ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਭਈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ, ਅੱਜ ਉਹ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਿਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਹੋ ਆ ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਰਹੋ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਸਤਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ, ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਸਕੀਏ ਜਿਸ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਸੁੱਖ ਆਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਲੜਾਈ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨਹੀਂ। ਜਦੋਂ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਆ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਬੈਠਣ ਦਾ ਲੈਸਟਰ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਉਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਅਨੁਭਵ ਜੋ ਉਦੋਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਨ 'ਚ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਆ, ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਨਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਗਵਾ ਬੈਠੀਏ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਲਿਸਟ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਚੇਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸੋਚ ਕੇ ਤੁਰੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਣਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਉਹਨੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਲਾਤਾ ਸੱਚ ਔਰ ਹੱਕ ਲਈ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਪਹਿਰਾ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਰਹੋ। ਔਰ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਅੱਜ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਲੜਾਈਆਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਔਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਨੇ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਮੁਕਾਬਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ। ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਔਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਰਹੋ। ਜਿੱਤ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਸੱਚ ਦੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਆ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਦੂਜੀਆਂ ਸਟੇਟਾਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿ ਗਏ ਆ, ਉਹ ਬੀਬੀ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਸ਼ਮੀਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਉੱਪਰ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਘਰ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਆ ਔਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਆ। ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਦਾ ਪੱਲਾ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਜ਼ਾਲਮ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਸਿਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਝੁਕਣਾ, ਇਹ ਸੱਚਾਈ ਆ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। Quite similar, but I'm going to pick one out here as well. So the question here is, so where are we with the other 8 parts of Punjab that have not yet been investigated?
The figure that we've come to, the 8,257, isn't a complete figure. Even from the 14 districts that we have gone into, we're not saying that that's the final figure. There are huge data gaps within that. What we're saying is out of these 22 districts in Punjab, we've managed to go to 14. Out of those 14, this is the information that we've collected. Yes, we do intend to document further. So at some stage we hope to districts that we haven't. I just wanted to, if there's any other questions, because I know time is limited and we'll answer the ones that we have. So if there's any last question, we'll try and wrap them up all together.
Yesterday, I heard you speak, and today we've actually seen the documentary. I'm going to keep this brief because I don't necessarily want this broadcast on television. I think each one of us commends what you're doing, but each one of us can actually help you in different ways. And the only thought that came to me watching that documentary is there are movers and shakers, if I could put it that way, that aren't sitting in this room. Because if this is a genocide and crimes against humanity, then that struggle can't happen just within India. And I'll probably leave it there because I think the key thing for all of us is we all have something to offer to deliver that justice. But I think it's important just to get that people talking to you privately, because I think we can all do things.
Okay.
मेरा नाम कुलदीप सिंह है. This is a very nice documentary. I have a suggestion that if we could advocate, propagate to the literary students in universities, schools, who can write up one story on each individual person that have disappeared or however been killed, and those stories were published as a historical documents of all the events that have taken place. It'll be much easier because then you have an army of students, Sikhs, non-Sikhs, writing stories on individual levels of each person that took place. and those can be created library like the Jewish people do, than just having name and one photo that this person had disappeared, because those stories may turn into eventual movies, people to be able to see a different way how the history of the Sikhs was created. Thank you.
Indian state, the judiciary there has the roadblocks they put up all these years. Will there ever be a time, or what will it take for a supranational body like the ICC or other global bodies to take note and take action, given the national judiciary isn't doing anything about it?
It's in the International Criminal Court. The country has to agree. It has to consent and it has to accede. The only exception to that is if the Security Council come together and they take unilateral action in crimes against humanity or genocide. That's never going to happen. The Security Council is going to do that. It's not. If it was going to happen, when 50,000 Tamils were massacred in 6 months, and the UN High Commissioner said that there needs to be an independent inquiry, and they were trying to get that issue moved, and they didn't. 250,000 people have died in Syria. Now, let's just put to the one side international law. Don't take it from me. Go and speak to an international barrister that specialises in these things. What do you do then? What do you do? The system has to change. India doesn't have a law that prohibits genocide, and every one of those panelists agree with that. There isn't a law that prevents torture or enforced disappearances, the Convention Against Torture. So what can you do? There has to be, there's a tradition, not just in Punjab, but across India, of people's movements, people coming together and articulating these things. And when everybody is saying, look, torture is prevalent, it happens in every single police station, not in the context of insurgency, but it just happens routinely, that needs to stop. And enforced disappearance needs to stop. Now, you have to keep going and keep going. And in an ideal scenario, maybe it will be 50 years from now. Maybe none of us will be here. But the efforts of what we've put in will come to fruition. I just want to answer the Nojuan's question. My views on this documentary is about what's happened to our people and how the system of justice has failed. My views on anything else are immaterial, first of all. And secondly, I would never ask anyone to do something that I'm not prepared to do myself. I'm a lawyer. I don't pretend to be anything else. I don't stand on stages and give big speeches. I'm a lawyer, and if there are other lawyers or other Naujuan, we have lost too much. One thing that comes out of going to village to village to village, a 15-year-old doesn't even have a dadi on their face. Unhone ki duniya dekhi hai. We won't waste 2 minutes to put that picture up in the Sikh library in Amritsar. When there was this protest in India, a young Munda, Jaswant Singh, in 2012, was killed in police firing when this Rajwana protest happened. And every Sikh group was falling over themselves saying, "Odi photo lagni chahidi hai." And I said, "Tusi bas photoan lawaniyan apni Naujuan peedhi diyan." I don't want to see, I personally, maybe you don't agree with this, I do not want to see another single young Sikh die. Because you know why? There's no one there to pick them up. No one. After 25 years, somebody said to me, "Tusi adaltan ch bhikha mangde ha? Ki tusi compensation karde ha?" I said to him, "Bhai sahab, thodiyan jebban kinniyan dunghiyan ha?" He said, "Kyon?" I said, "Je inniyan dunghiyan thodiyan jebban, ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੱਲੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੰਪਨਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਾਹ ਫੜਦੇ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹਿ ਜੰਨੇ ਆ। ਇੱਕ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੋਗੇ। And support in the sense that you will completely rehabilitate that. That is the job of the state. And if the state doesn't do that, then this work is to explain it to them. I will say to all our Naujuan Vs and our Singhs and Singh and everybody else, your lives are too precious, frankly. Maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't. Jaswant Singh Khalida took information. You know, we talk about Julian Assange. You know, he was holed up and he's this icon of the information age. Julian Assange, what did he do?
He got all of this information from governments killing people with drones in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all the rest of it, and he put it out there, and he said, this is what our governments are doing, they're killing people, okay? And then Julian Assange had another case, an unrelated matter. He came here and he hid in the Ecuadorian embassy. He's a very brave man. I'm not knocking Julian Assange in any way, okay? But he spent 8 years taking refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy. Your Julian Assange was Jaswant Singh, who so bravely left speeches here and went from Slough, he went to Calgary, Vancouver and other places, letting the world know what happened. And he went back with that information and he openly challenged the people. That's the difference. You say, what can people here do? I'm so surprised, and we've met up with old friends after many years. You know how many young people know, how many of our own young people know who Jaswant Singh was? What a tragedy. मेरे वीर ने सवाल पूछा सीगा संघर्ष चलिया सारे नूं पता है 84 ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार कल्लू घारे होए आ दिल्ली दे कतलेआम इन्हां ने शरेआम कीता वो सारा पता सानू. Yeah, but you would be surprised when you talk to our Naujawan Pidi how many people understand this. And actually it's a complex issue. One of the reasons for doing the documentary was how do you unravel all the layers? And it took us years to try and figure it out ourselves. And maybe we did a job, maybe it's still complicated, but you need to understand your history. And if nothing else, if absolutely nothing else comes out of this, nothing else, having a generation that understand what's happened to them is perhaps one of the most important things.
That concludes our questions and answers session, but I'll pass over to Jaswant Kaur and she'll just give you some concluding words.
When we started this work, it wasn't to be here today 10 years later. We went with quite a small concept and quite a small time period. We originally went for 6 months. It was what we saw in Punjab and it was what we understood of the systems or lack of them in Punjab and in India that made us stay. And then we realized what had happened in Punjab. This laboratory in Punjab, what the state did in Punjab and what they learnt or didn't learn from those lessons were being taken to other states in India. That's when we realized this is hugely important, that these cases come in front of the larger world, in front of even other Indians, actually. I mean, today we're quite a Sikh-heavy audience, but when we showed this film in Delhi and in Chandigarh, more so Delhi, it was actually 50-50. We had people sort of not 50% non-Sikhs, and up until that point, they actually hadn't understood the Punjab issue, because you've never had a narrative in India. There is no narrative in India apart from what the perpetrators and the state put out. So this was our attempt to bring some balance to that narrative. And actually the response we got from a younger generation in India, non-Sikh, was phenomenal. A lot of the people who came to us and then volunteered their time are non-Sikhs. And they understand the importance of this work and they understand why it's important. It was important when there was an original victim who was disappeared. It remains important because of the families. They want answers. But as you've seen, the practical outcome of this, if a child does not have a death certificate, they're never going to have the land that their father would have left them. If you don't have a death certificate, when you go for a job, they ask you, okay, so that's your mother, who's your father, what's going on, what happened with him? Are you going to sit there and trying to explain to someone what happened in 1992 to your father, or would you just prefer to have a death certificate and say, he was killed? The long-term trauma in Punjab hasn't even begun to be understood, unfortunately, even in this audience today, I feel. For every individual that we talk about, 8,257, have you ever thought about how many members of that family would have been tortured to get that killing? One person killed, maybe 10 people from that family tortured. Where is our rehabilitation project for those families, the victims that remain? And it's nice to have, obviously, these debates and talk about these things, but ultimately, like I began with saying, it's not actually our decision. We may have some views, they may be interesting to some people, but fundamentally, it's the families in Punjab, and this is what they want. They want justice and they want answers. And when Satnam Singh talks about going into court and looking at the mother who looks at the person that there's nothing like that. There's absolutely no moment in your life that will be like that. For us, certainly. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I just want to conclude this. The one thing that we have as Sikhs, is that spirit of determination and hope. This is a really, okay, frankly, there's no other way to put it. It's a depressing thing. You can come out of this and think, it's really bad. Or the other way of looking at this is this determination that Bhai Sahib keh rahe sige, that look, you keep doing what you have to do, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it. And until you carry on doing it, there will always be that message of hope. And that's what we have to carry. Maybe this work, not just our work, but what the Manipuris are doing, what's happening in Kashmir, in Chhattisgarh, maybe it will prevent another genocide in India. Maybe. We can look backwards, we can look where we are, but we also have to look forward. There's a compelling case, not just to say that the Sikhs of Punjab need justice. There's a case to say everyone is in a very vulnerable situation. Everyone, a Hindu, a Sikh, a Christian, a Muslim, a Dalit, an Adivasi, everyone is vulnerable because there's no protection, and that can't be allowed to happen. So look, this is why you have debates and discussions. There's no one way, there's no right answer, there's no complete solution, and then there is after you find yourself in the situation where we are today. But one thing that we do have, and maybe you'll find this, our history, our tradition is based on others being saved by the actions of what's happened to your people. Maybe that something else will happen. But there's no answer to that. You can ask a government, why isn't there a law that prohibits genocide? And what is the answer to that? And if you do that with a determination, a stoic resolve like these people have, then you need to keep pushing that, you need to keep doing that, you need to keep taking that. Will it take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 50 years? Maybe some people say you completely wasted your lives doing something. Maybe it will happen after you die. But our Sikhi is, you carry on. You have to. There's no alternative, there's no option.
You may have noticed in the film is that while we touched upon issues like sexual violence, we didn't talk a lot about them in the film. And there's a reason for that. When Kavita Shrivastava from the PUCL says, do you not think sexual violence happened in Punjab? The answer to that, it did. We have a very small team, and I'm the only woman in that team. And when we go and we document, we're very limited in how many cases, fundamentally, if Satnam Singh and there's other team members who go into a village and they sit with you and they talk with you about what happened, you as a woman are not going to necessarily talk to them. When I went out and talked to women in different households, sexual violence was there. We just don't have the capacity to document it. Sexual violence in Punjab remains, even after 25, 30 years, a very, almost a footnote, and that's a tragedy. That's a really big tragedy to our story for the future. And I hope, when we come to these kind of places and we talk to the Najwan, and I hope, often I hope that there will be, especially young women in this audience, in any audience we go to, who come forward and say, I'd like to help in some way. Because that's another big issue that's lacking, especially within the human rights documentation. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming today and actually watching the documentary, and I'd like to thank the panelists for being here today and answering your questions as well. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
ਇੱਕੋ ਗੱਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਸੀ 94 ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੇਸ ਸੀਗਾ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਭਾਈ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਥੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਪੰਥ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਗਏ ਸੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਇੱਕ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਸੀਗੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ 2-3 ਘੰਟੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਮੁੜੇ ਤੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਆਣ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਭਾਈ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਤੁਰੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਲੋਕ ਹਾਲੇ ਉਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਜਵਾਬ ਕੀ ਦੇਣਾ ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਮਰਜੀਤ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ 20-25 ਸਾਲ ਬਾਅਦ ਲੋਕ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੇਸ ਵਾ ਇਹ ਫੇਰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਭਰਾਓ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਹੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਜੇ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਕਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਹਾਸਲ ਕਰ ਲਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਦਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਰੀਜਨ ਇਹ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟੈਰਰਿਸਟ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਕਰਨ ਡਏ ਆ ਨਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਵਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੇ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਇਹ ਆ ਇਸ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਕਾਜ ਹੈ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਰੇ ਚੜਾਉਣਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ
ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
Reaction to the film, what did you think?
It's shocking to start with, but also I'm very pleased that somebody's taken the issue to bring this case to public attention and awareness. I would like to see it on mainstream media like BBC, ITV, Channel 4, one of those Indian programs, to get a sort of more wider acceptance of what's happened.
Absolutely great suggestion. Thank you very much. Excuse me.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਡਿਸਅਪੀਅਰਡ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਅੱਜ ਦਿਖਾਈ ਹੈ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਟੋਰਿਕ ਟੱਚ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਉਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਿ ਅਸਲ 'ਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਕੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਸੀ ਅੰਦਰ ਇਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਐਡੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁੱਖ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਐਡੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਟੱਕਰ ਲੈਣੀ ਇਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਵੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹਨ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੀਏ ਤੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਿੰਘਣੀ ਭੈਣ ਭਰਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
ਫਤਿਹ reaction to the movie then?
ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਭਾਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਸ਼ਲਾਘਾਯੋਗ ਕੰਮ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਬਾਈ 35 ਸਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਇਹ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਕੁਛ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਭੁੱਲੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਮੂਡ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੱਕਣੀ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਸੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਇਸ ਫਿਲਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਾਬਤ ਕਰਦੀ ਅੱਜ ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਲੁਕਦੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਮੁਲਕ 'ਚ ਬੈਠਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਕੱਢਿਓ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੁਕਣ ਨੂੰ ਥਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਭਦਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਆਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਭਾਈ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਬੀਬੀ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਔਰ ਅਸੀਂ 100% ਇਸ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਸਿਰ ਝੁਕਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ
I'm good. It was very emotional, very hard-hitting. I'm ashamed to say that I didn't even know the stuff that was mentioned in that documentary. I can't imagine what those families must have gone through to not even have, a death certificate. One of the girls was saying that, they couldn't even when they want to sort of...
They can't claim their pension.
Yeah, stuff like that. So to know that this has been happening in 1995 doesn't seem that long ago at all. So, you know, 8,257 cases, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we've been told after the documentary that there's thousands and thousands more. You know, topics such as they mentioned that the sexual violence, that stuff that they haven't even need to cover. I'm just thinking, you know, it's fantastic that they brought this to light, but I feel like there's so much more that we as a community need to do.
What do you think about, I mean, I was talking to the director earlier on, Jaswant, and as it mentioned to her, there's a ripple effect. Effectively, when one person's family dies, or in some cases there's so many of them in the same family that died, they live with that, and it's a continuous torture, isn't it?
Exactly. So they mentioned, you know, every one family member that's died, there's like 10 more family members that have been tortured. You know, from grandmas to children to, you know, like I said, villages are just being completely wiped out. So, you know, we go to Punjab and we see Punjab as this, you know, fantastic place, and you know, we have these happy memories. But when you deep down and you think about it, it's, you know, these families haven't had justice, and that's what they want. Of so many elderly, you know, saying that this is what we want justice. So, you know, I still feel that, you know, this is something that we need to do. You know, the Indian government is corrupt, but, you know, what can we do until we give them justice? It's an issue that's not going to go away.
Thanks so much for that. Good to see you. Well, we've actually come to the final part of the show, which is, well, we spoke earlier on, didn't we, Raj?
And yeah. And, you know, watching the whole film and documentary, I mean, it was absolutely, I mean, my eyes were watering throughout the movie from the very start all the way to the end. It was an emotional journey. And, I mean, lives, family members, I mean, I was reading up the statistics.
It's a really shocking situation, isn't it? So thanks to the crew at the Basic Channel. Thank you for important for our history. It does remind me of something I heard many years ago. If we don't write our history, somebody else will write our history for us. So it's very important that we continue with these documentaries and support them, and you learn from it and actually contribute in terms of anything you can do to support and bring out the message. A great suggestion from somebody earlier on, I think you'll see it. Someone said, why not write the stories about these people? And there are so many stories that we really need to care about. Yeah, absolutely brilliant suggestion, and we need to remember. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru.
10 दिन बाद ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਉਹਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੀ ਜੇ ਮੁੰਡਾ ਮਾਰੇਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮਾਰ ਦਿਓ
बड़े औखे जाते हैं क्योंकि मेरा कौन ही आदमी मर गया ही पुत भी शहीद हो गया ही
16 साल ਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੀਰ ਝੋਨੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਣੀ ਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਬਲਦੇਵ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਮਾਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ
ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ ਡੈਥ ਸਰਟੀਫਿਕੇਟ ਤਾਂ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਅੱਗੇ
उसका कोर्ट बड़ा है एक ना एक दिन इंसाफ मिलेगा जरूर मिलेगा